They rewrap presents too.
Yeah.
They get the same damn sweater every year from Great Father Winter.
That's a great idea, actually.
3, 2, 1.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get this shindig started. This is Server Restart In. It's a weekly World of Warcraft podcast with 3 opinionated players who like to get together to discuss their thoughts about the current state of the game. My name is Jim. I'm joined by Kristen.
Hello.
And Brian.
Hi.
And there's a little bit going on.
There is?
Yeah, in WoW news, Blizzard released some information saying that the Shadowlands Season 4 will be closing the week of October 25th.
Oh.
So, no, that's not just okay. Obviously it's whatever, but there is speculation that this will be
Pre-patch?
The time when the pre-patch starts. Because the pre-patch is currently set to be on the PTR starting tomorrow, October 14th at 10 o'clock Pacific time. They will be, it will be for playtesting of the pre-patch events. The pre-patch events will include the introductory quest line for Dragonflight. It will include the events that will happen, which are elemental storms in the Badlands and Ungoro Crater. So what those are is there will be, I guess, different elemental storms that will change the surrounding weather and enhance enemies with additional powers. So if it's a firestorm...
I forgot that the Badlands was a thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people did, because...
That's where Oldemon is, right?
Yeah, and
Badlands.
that's the other thing is the Return of Oldemon will be a level 60 dungeon. It says the Return of Oldemon, and return is capitalized. So I don't know if the dungeon is called Return of Oldemon, or if it's just the return of the Oldemon dungeon. So there will be a new dungeon. There will be the events and a quest line that are going to be on the PTR tomorrow, as of the time we're recording it. So I don't know if it's worth going and checking out or not. I'm not sure what the rewards will be. It could be, I know in Legion they had all the different, like the fell gear for all the different armor types. I'm not sure if BFA had something like that. What was the BFA pre-patch? It was the stuff in
Darkshore.
Silithus and Darkshore, right?
Wasn't it?
No.
Was Darkshore?
No, those were the war fronts.
No, the stuff where we went and got a whole bunch of gear.
The battle for Undercity. Yeah, it was Darkshore, and then it culminated in the battle for Undercity.
Darkshore? Fuck, I don't remember that.
Yeah, and
I remember Undercity, but I don't remember.
Well, it was the whole point of where the burning of the Teldrassil happened. Yeah. Right? It was all that storyline where we did...
Oh, shit. I'm thinking of Darkshire. What the hell?
Yeah.
That's not the same thing. I'm an idiot.
No, you're not. It's very easy to get it confused. It's one letter.
Yeah.
Darkshire, Darkshore.
Oh, shit. Yes. They had a copy-paste error is what happened when they were naming it. Yeah. So... I guess, and then Shadowlands, there was the stuff in Northrend, right? All the different, like some of the ICC bosses came back, and they were out in the world, and you could go down and kill them, and stuff like that, and you could get a new version of, Papa's brand new bag, kind of thing, and...
wasn't it? Well, it's just a bag, wasn't it? They dropped gear too? No, they dropped those little
the Scourge
Things
tokens
again.
and that you could buy
Yeah.
gear with because
Oh, that's right.
you could level your characters up and get the appearances. Okay, so hopefully there'll be something like that, which will be something to do. It's a little soon.
I hope that it's something that you can get through fairly quickly.
so that it doesn't distract you from school.
Yes, I don't have time.
No.
It's terrible.
I hope that it's something that you can hop on and do the quest, and then like gathering the gear and stuff doesn't take that long because I still have DKs to level. And I'd like to get that done before 10.0, before the expansion actually launches.
I only have one character to do all of that stuff on, and that's all I care to do it on.
Well,
only going to do it on AOC.
If there's different transmogs for the different armor sets.
Nope, don't even care.
I do.
Don't even care. Because I can't, because all of my stuff is, none of my characters are, my priest.
Your
maybe.
priest, you have,
oh no, okay.
a Death Knight.
I have a Death Knight. Okay, I did level some of them.
And
okay.
so that's leather. And male, you could...
Did you say so that's leather? Did you say you have a Death Knight, so that's leather?
Your druid is leather.
Yes.
And then the only thing you'd have to do for male is get a hunter up or a shaman, right? Those are the only two for male?
Yes. And then the evoker.
Well, you can't do an evoker with the pre-patch, but... So, that is what's coming out. So, there was, along with that, there was another announcement. When the pre-patch starts, all the set bonuses from the raid gear, from the 9.2 gear, will be marked as legacy, and they'll be disabled in combat. And they said the only reason, they said it's routine for them to do this for older bonuses as legacy. They don't normally do it so soon after they are acquired. It is too
soon after.
They're saying the extent of the class changes is what's causing this to be a decision.
Because they moved, like, for druids, they moved some of the four-piece set over to yeah.
So they said, this is a
so I'm assuming they did
exceptional
it for other people
circumstances. As well. Yes, it's like they took some of those things from there, kind of melded them into the classes, with the talent changes and stuff like that. And they said in the future, it is not our intention to repeat this timing when marking class sets as legacy. So this is like kind of like a one-off, and they said to account for the removal and the new talent trees, the game content is going to be retuned in 10.0 so that the difficulty doesn't really change. So that way you don't feel like a power loss when it happens. Which is a good thing, It's like, obviously it's probably not going to be perfect. Like there will probably be some things that will be, or some spells that maybe get missed or mistuned that are either super powerful or super weak, because we've seen that happen before. Same thing with some of the mobs, because I know when they did the level squish, there were like mobs that would just destroy you because their spells weren't tuned correctly, because I guess they did like a flat squish initially, but that didn't affect certain spells correctly. So it'll be interesting to see. Really, I don't know what content there's really gonna be to do unless you're still doing like the faded raids. I mean, I guess the new dungeon that's coming out and some of that stuff, but for the most part, if you've been doing fate, I don't know what it's gonna be scaled to for like what they expect the average item level to be. You know what I mean? Because season 4 was kind of a new thing, and the power levels we got are, higher than they would have been had normal rating progression been there. I think like the highest would have been like 271 or something like that. Whereas now it's like if you're doing mythic faded raids, you're getting 304 gear. So you could be high level 304, which is insane, because on the beta, on the server where you make a max level character, your starting gear is 304. So that means that for people that have been doing the raids and have been getting up in the high 200s and the low 300s for their item level, they're not going to really see any quest gear be
replaced
upgrades.
by that.
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna see quest gear be upgrades. If they're 304 and it's starting at 304,
max level they give you 304.
Oh,
So that's kind of like greens at max level. We're not going to be max level.
Okay,
so
okay.
So
people at 304 gear will probably just have it easy. They'll just plow through.
Yeah, they won't have any real
see
issues
upgrades.
with things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of is what it is. It kind of,
I like getting upgrades while I'm leveling.
it is nice to get upgrades, but it's also nice to go in and just be that much higher than the content, and the difficulty is a little lower.
Yeah.
Or it's like if you like that, then you shouldn't necessarily. It's kind of hit or miss. It's like well, you could just be like, if you don't care about getting upgrades or whatever, just do the high level raids, and then you won't see a lot of upgrades. But if you really care about it, just don't do high end content. And it's like neither one of those, or the second one definitely. It's like you can't penalize somebody for wanting to do higher end game content. And I'm not saying that they said this, but it's just one of the things. It's always been like that. We've seen that when we were doing stuff like after Legion and after BFA. It's like you have raid gear that lasts you for at least 5 levels sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's just one of those interesting things. It's just an interesting, I don't know, situation that just kind of exists. So,
Good. I mean, unique means it's different. So we need different.
I will say that. Did you talk about the tagging thing yet?
I haven't got to that yet. So I don't know if you saw this. There was a tweet from World of Warcraft, and it just says Horde Alliance, and it's got 2 hands shaking, and it says sharing mob tags and Dragonflight. So, and then they followed that up with a reply, and it said, beginning Dragonflight pre-patch does not apply to war mode, and mobs still gray out after 5 characters have engaged. So, what this is initially, mob tags were either the first player or the first party to engage with a mob. Tag that mob for that or player
Faction.
and or players. Well, not even faction. It was that player. So like in Vanilla and BC and maybe even Wrath. I don't know when they introduced the stuff, but initially it was, if you're out there soloing and you hit a target, there may have been a little bit of like gray area where if somebody came and did more damage, they might take it, but I don't know if that was in this game or a different game. Where you could pull.
I want to say I feel like that was a while ago though. Like
wasn't that old WoW?
Old WoW, yeah.
Old WoW, wasn't it?
Like if somebody came in and just did like
a crap ton of damage, they
would end up with the tag and stuff. But I don't know if I don't remember if that happened in a while. I know there were other games like that, and it always sucked playing a tank class. Like I think Ion was like that.
Oh, Ion was just
because if you played a tank class, your damage output was not high, so people would come and attack the mob you were attacking and just do a shit ton of damage and kill it and then get the credit for it. And it's fucking annoying. But so initially that was like the early versions of the game, then they kind of restricted it a little bit so that first it was important quest mobs and world bosses would have it so that up to 5 players could tap it, right? So where they would get credit for killing it, stuff, but that was like faction based, And I think even like some of the world bosses now aren't. I don't know if they still have the faction tagging. on some things. But anyway, it's kind of going away now. So now it's just going to be the first 5 players tap it, and it regardless of faction. So they're just kind of like getting rid of the faction fighter. It doesn't apply to war mode. So if you're in war mode, you don't share taps across faction, because the whole point of war mode is to be at war with the other faction. And it's still a 5-player limit, but it also means that, you know, there's more potential players getting the tap limit. So it could, in the beginning, it's probably going to be like a still a pain in the ass, you know, because if you just have like 20 people in one quest area doing it, you know, it's going to be like, as soon as something spawns, if you're not quick, you know, you can lose out. But
they have changed it so that if there's a lot of people, things spawn a lot more quickly. So
right.
That's,
no, I know.
you know,
there's
that's
other
nice. There's
yeah.
right. There's other things.
Even the way they changed it, you know, whatever, like in Kata, whenever it was multi-tappable.
Yeah.
I mean, that fixed it almost night and day.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It definitely made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Any least little thing is just a little added bonus, so that's pretty good.
You know, they're trying to make it better without making it just, you know,
Worse.
Yeah, well, it's like you can go too far with it, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like,
yeah, better for them to kind of take it slow and see how things work than just be drastic about changes. So
yeah, baby steps. You know,
yeah.
Like one of my favorite, you know, movies with Bill Murray and Richard Dreyfuss. What About Bob? Anyway.
Slow down.
That's a good one. So yeah, so that's coming, which is good. I think that's probably also one of the first steps towards the cross-faction guilds, honestly. Starting, because you can see that they're starting to erode the faction walls to the point where, you know, even if they're not removing faction identity, because it's still Horde, you still have your own cities and all that stuff, having the guilds, making it so that the interaction out in the world is less restricted, I think is a good step towards that, you know. And if you don't like it, there's always war mode, but I don't think it's really going to impact you that much if an alliance player comes along and helps you kill something and also gets loot from it, you know. So, because I was doing some quests today, and you know, I'm on alliance and you see some horde people out there killing some stuff, and it's like an elite or something like that.
Fucking horde. Well,
No,
Jim is all alliance now.
I miss them.
baby.
It sucks, but
What are you talking about?
I'm leveling alliance death knights.
Oh.
So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, you know, just go help them kill something. You know, you don't get anything out of it. You know, I mean, but now, hey, maybe there's a little bit more incentive to help kill something. You know, rather than other than just getting it dead so it can respawn quicker. You know,
Right.
so that's a pretty good change that's coming out. Let's see what else. So I did not get a chance to get in the beta and work on professions and do any of that stuff that I said I was going to do last week. Because I got too involved with leveling Death Knights, because that's just what I do. It kind of eats up a lot of time. But I did find an interesting article about engineering, as far as how some parts of engineering are going to work. They have these Tinker modules now that are going to be like a socketed thing. and jumper cables are going to fall into this category. So rather than being a separate item, it's like an add-on that an engineer can put into a slot on a certain piece of craftable gear that they can make. It's not as good as it's something that they're kind of still trying to figure out, because it is the slot only exists on engineer crafted equipment, and those tend to be bind on pickup, right? So you craft it and whatever, you have to wear it, right? You can't sell it, but there is a specialization in engineering called function over form for gear, which allows the engineer to create a non-BOP version of the item when they craft it, so that it would be a BOE. So then they could sell it, that way, and you don't have to be an engineer to actually wear the item and equip it and use like the tinker slots on it. So, so right now it looks like they can only create 2 different types of armor pieces. It says bind on pickup goggles, and it says BOE wrists, but the link says that they're actually a BOP, and they each come with 1 slot. So I mean, there's like 6 different tinker things that you can make, but you can only have 2 slots, obviously. One's a damage, like it's called Breath of Neltharion. Basically, they use a flamethrower to do a fire cone in front of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There's Super Kaleidotron. It says you lock onto a distant enemy target up to 12 to 60 yards away. After 1.5 seconds, if your path remains unobstructed, you will charge towards them at the speed of sound. Both you and your target will be stunned for 1.5 seconds upon collision. Some of these really seem like they're PvP related. There's an invisibility one. There's one that makes the next one always succeed. Obviously the jumper cables. They did data mine some stuff for the convincingly realistic jumper cables, which is a potential item that could be used, but it doesn't appear in the game anywhere, so doesn't appear like an engineer crafting stuff. So it may be in there, it may not. So the new jumper cables may only be like these tinker modules for engineers, but it's an interesting way to kind of combine some of that stuff. There's all different kinds of. I really can't wait to start crafting. It's gonna be.
I hope so, man.
It really seems like it's gonna be so different, and you combine that with work orders.
Mm-hmm.
Where you can just go and take an order and make things. And if they provide,
my concern will always be is there gonna be a need? Right, because if it's just like it has been, well, I would argue that I don't even know if BFA was probably about the same as Shadowlands in usefulness, in my opinion.
Yeah, like when
Legion was a little bit more useful.
BFA had the only thing I really remember was that at a certain point, like when Najdatar opened up, they introduced a whole bunch of new recipes, and that you could get for getting the pearls and buying the recipes from the guild.
Yeah.
And so I could get better pants, that were good until I replaced them in a raid. It was that was the upgrade to kind of you could get faster, and it's just, it wasn't the best, that's for sure. And
yeah,
if I think there's a way to upgrade stuff too. If I recall right, in the new system, to where you can take an existing item and upgrade it or change some things on it and stuff like that. So I hope that that's actually the case. Battlecat does too. Yep. Oh, you want to play the beta? Oh, well, okay. Well, I'll let you get in, but you can't tell anybody because that's account sharing. But yeah, I really want to dive into it more, but that requires time that I don't want to devote to it.
Yeah. Well, especially at this point, like
it's 6 weeks out. I mean,
yeah.
However you want to cut it, 5 to 6 weeks out. You know, I'm not going to do the math right now. You know, it's the middle of October. It comes out at the end of November. You know, it's like, will the work order and stuff be in there with the pre-patch? Maybe. Not like it's going to be worth a damn, because nobody needs anything right now unless it's like lower level stuff. But I don't know. But at least we'll be able to start seeing some of the talents and stuff like that. It'll be nice to get in there and just play around with things, you know? Yeah.
Oh, I just realized something that kind of sucks. We're not really going to have access to those lower levels of...
Yeah, not until max level.
Right, which means that we are going to be losing. We're going to be... They shouldn't take them out this early. Like, we're going to be losing our set bonuses before we have access to our set bonuses.
It's only 10 points, I think, that are like the last 10 levels.
Yeah, and that's where those, at least for my druid, that's where those things are.
Well, I don't know. We'll have to see. Because it's one of those things. And it's something that they could still walk back, or they could still move stuff around.
I mean...
Because if pre-patch is going on, you're going to have people on the PTR copy their character over and test it. You know, that would be a good spot to... Because I would assume on the PTR, they'll have the set bonuses disabled. One would assume. You know, so that would be a good place to go test some things and see, you know, if it really is or not. But they've also but they're also balancing the game difficulty in general, so that even though maybe we're losing power, but everything gets that much easier. You know, like they're trying to keep that stuff in line. So it's hard to say. You know, it's like you can't. If they were just to put the talent stuff so that whatever we'd be maxed out now, then there's nothing to look forward to. And yes, I know it sucks trying to get back up to some things that you had, but you know, I don't know. It's just the way these things happen. And you know, it's like you have every right to be upset about it and you can be mad about it, but there's really not a whole lot you can do about it.
Like, they haven't disabled them yet on like the beta.
Well, that's not the PTR though.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
But the PTR doesn't go live until tomorrow at 10, so I don't think like that's something that they just announced. So there's probably going to be a beta build at some point.
Are legendaries still going to work?
They just said, I'm pretty sure it just said set bonuses. Class set bonuses, yeah, will be marked as legacy. It doesn't say anything about legendaries.
But again, like, I can't access photosynthesis now until it's in the bottom row, which means that my legendaries are crap then. Because
that's probably
and that's kind of messed up.
You got to think about it too. A lot of legendaries update or upgrade covenant powers too, and those are going to be going away. It's, you know, so I don't know. It's something to maybe check and see if people are posting about on the forums and find out, and if on the beta forums, and post some stuff on there to, you know, talk about it. Get the conversation rolling. So I don't know. It's just
It's very frustrating.
yeah, it is frustrating, but
It's frustrating that they take stuff away in order to give it back to you in a talent build. Like, that's frustrating. Make it like Tranquility. Make it so it's still baseline, which it has been. But put it in the talent thing where if you pick this talent, oh my God, you can move with it again. We had one expansion where we could move with it, and it was the best thing ever. You know?
it's everything can't be. They're redoing everything, right? They're reworking everything, so it's not like it's gonna be a 1-to-1 parody to the way things are now. And it does suck that they're doing it this way, but it's all part of like this imagined advancement through levels to feel like you're getting better at something. And just updating a spell doesn't necessarily have the same oomph as getting a spell. And I know that's you don't care because you've had the spell for so long, but I don't know. I don't know what their thought is. I don't know why it's not lower on the tree.
I don't even care about it being lower on the tree. They shouldn't take it away to begin with. They should not take away abilities. That's messed up.
Is it an ability or a talent on live?
You have it. You just get it. You get it as you level up. It's not you don't pick it as a talent. You get it. And they're taking it away.
They rewrap presents too.
Yeah.
I get the same
idea, actually.
They
get the same damn
regift.
sweater every year from Great Father.
It's genius, right? When the game goes for so long, you just rewrap old features and just do it again.
Yeah, it's dumb.
It's
I love it.
It's hard. It's hard to take something that's been going this long
I mean, you don't take stuff away. Again, I offered a perfectly valid thing. Instead of taking something away, you make it so you can run with it. Make it so the cooldown is a little bit less. Make it so there's plenty of viable things that you can do.
And that is probably more work. That's probably more work for balancing out the rest of the class. Because if you make that change, right, what is the cascading effect on everything else, right?
Tranquility is not the greatest cooldown. So making it so that way you can, like, Flourish is a far superior cooldown.
I don't have an
than
answer
Tranquility.
Because I'm not a Blizzard guy.
on a much lesser cooldown. So it's, you're grasping at straws here. It's very frustrating.
Honestly, I'm so goddamn bored with Warrior that I mix it up. I don't care. I mean, going back and forth between Wrath will be enough for me to think that, or refresh, I guess, my perspective on retail. So, I looked at a few things as far as talents previously, but I kind of stopped. Even the folks on Twitch and stuff, I've just stopped completely because I'm ready to be surprised mode. So I'm sure there are going to be some shitty things, but I think I'll be okay with it. And I think I've been low key for a while, especially with Warrior. I'll just go back to doing arms again, even if it sucks and whatever. But yeah, I'm in I'm ready mode to see what's gonna happen. So
yeah, I mean, it's gonna be we're gonna be max level before we know it. So it's gonna suck for like a week.
I mean, I'm not going to be max level before I know it because I don't have time to play.
No,
I won't be max level until I'm on
I'll-
break.
we'll be fine. We'll get there.
It's funny because a lot of the low level talents as well, like they're just, I mean, a lot of them are rehashed, you know, so even when you get there, you're not going to be all that surprised. I mean, there's some pretty interesting things in there, but, you know, half of them are for Shadowlands.
Yeah, I don't care. I think that is a good call. I think adding in the legendaries, great call. I think they should have added in. They should add in legendaries from Legion too. Great call to do that. Absolutely, absolutely, really good thing to do. Another good thing they could do. Jim and I were talking about this the other day. Is they could make it so you wanted to go back into older areas.
So there was something to do in older.
So there,
years.
yeah, like I love rolling around on my druid. I am a shapeshifting fool. I fly on my eagle and then I like dip down onto the ground or my owl. Sorry, not my eagle. On my owl, and then I jump down in the ground and I'm in cheetah form and I'm running on the ground, and then I jump off a cliff and I'm in my owl form again. And I love doing stupid things like that, you know, like ridiculous stuff like that, and then just being out in the world like that, right? And going to all those stupid little areas, you know, old areas, and you know, just doing stuff. And we were talking about it in Final Fantasy. You go back to the other areas and you are doing things in the other areas. You do the fates and you do blah, blah, blah. And there are reasons to go and do them. You know, you get seals and you get, you know, blah, blah, blah. There's stuff for you to gain for going into those areas. And it makes it worthwhile to go. I mean, some of them are pretty low, but a lot of times you're leveling a new character, which is all on one character. So, you know, that also helps the longevity of zones, but their zones are like that. If WoW would do something like that, you know, obviously not Fates because, you know, that's a Final Fantasy thing, but, you know, do something to reinvigorate those areas, to make you want to go into those areas. Make the storylines go into those areas. Try to, you know, figure out a way to, you know, take you back through those areas, or to incorporate these, you know, people into, you know, make new people.
They kind of did that with Cataclysm. Right.
Right.
And you know how well received that was.
I mean, I liked Cataclysm. No. Like that
was
yeah.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they did everything though, right? They didn't evolve the world. They fucking like wiped it clean, started over. And that sucks. Like, I don't want to see the world wiped clean and start over, right? I like what they did overall. Mostly, right? So, point being, like, they didn't just evolve it, right? And that's, again, like going back to persistence in the world and stuff like that, and actually being a part of the world, rather it just being like, oh, I don't want to go back to that part of the story, right? Because it's not relevant anymore. That's what it feels like. I can go fly around in it, but when I go back there, it's like going back in time, and it's not what I want. It's like Shadowlands. Have you thought about like how much time we spent in what's the newest zone called? I forgot.
Zereth
Mortis. And think about how we're never going to go back there again.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad.
Unless you're farming old shit.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, sure, like once or twice, but even still, like, when was the last time you went to Argus?
Yeah.
You know?
What level
There's such
are we
high
now? Sorry.
60.
Okay.
But there's such high impact areas in terms of story and lore and stuff like that, and they have such a great opportunity to be a more persistent thing. but they just can't seem to ever do that, right? And the only thing they've only gotten close, really, in Cataclysm to doing that, I think. And I wouldn't really count pre-patch events as something as, oh, here's something going on in the world, you know, because it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's what, like, because I agree with her. I would like to go back and do things in areas, you know, but it's got to be relevant. You just can't.
Yeah.
Like, you're never going to get people to go back to certain, like, Desolus. Why the fuck would you go to Desolus?
There's some interesting new quests there.
Well, there's some interesting areas in there, too. Like,
You got the
there really
Centaur
is.
clans and stuff.
But there's no, I mean, there's not enough of a hook there to bring people into the world to exist that way, right? So that's what really sucks about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, or like the World Tree, man, the freaking Mount Hyjal, like that place was blocked off, but you could like hack your way into it in Classic, and it was like mysterious and oh wow, like they had the construction gates. It was crafted already from like Warcraft 3, right, with the shell of what's his nuts on the tree and stuff like that. All that was there in the files. People could run around in it, right? And not the way it looked in Kata, but like it looked like what it looked like in the raid in BC. But people could get in, hack the like jump hack or whatever, you know, clip jump and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and get into it and run around. And it was so mysterious, and it's like wow. And think back, and it's like I haven't been back to that place in forever. I forget it exists. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Oh, it's funny.
And so it's I don't.
I was I took one of the death knights when I hit level 30. I went into to go do Cata because I wanted to do it. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go to Vastgir because I haven't been there in forever, and that's the one zone that like everybody fucking hates. Nobody liked that one because it was the
It's
water.
a great example too. Yeah,
I like
you're
that.
right.
I like that zone. I always did
It
that
was
zone.
so unique. Yeah.
You
No,
know,
it's so tough, man, because it's like, yeah, I would I don't know. It's hard for me to not make a reference like back to Ultima Online, just because like that game was built around that. It was built around persistence of people and things, because it wasn't like, I mean, they pushed expansions on it and tried to build around a story, but the story was very loosely coupled compared to what players were building, you know, just as the persistence of the world, right? Like, we live in reality, but we don't need a story behind it. We just do our thing and we live by it, right? And that makes you want to be there. Now, granted, there's a fine line between wanting to be a part of the world and it being like cocaine.
Yeah.
You get addicted to it, but at the same time, like having something to come back to and it just not just be like a to-do list and that's it, makes a big difference.
Mm.
yeah, there's a lot they can do, but I think
There's a lot they won't do, you meant to say.
Mm.
well, there's a lot they won't do because it's too involved and you could, I mean, they have phasing technology because ice crown zones were phased. You know, like if you weren't on the same part of the story, like if you had
Mhm.
done like the initial stuff into Ice Crown from like where you go, there's like that encampment and you kill the dragons and stuff and then fly through and pick up the people and bring them back and all that stuff. Like that area would be phased, or like some like the interior areas of Ice Crown would be phased and stuff like that. And it's just, you could do that for, you know, to add stories. But I think you have a point when you say like it has to make sense, and they probably don't have anybody there to write anything like that, or they're not looking to do that. And it could be because they had
And why would they? Like, there's literally no incentive for it. I hate to say that, but there isn't. You know, that's where, like, yeah, if you were smart enough, you could charge money and you could give players the power and the need to create part of their own story, right? I mean, you already are. You get rid of that fucking hero bullshit, champion bullshit, right? And rewind it backwards a little bit, you'd have more of that. You know, again, like turn professions more into something where people can make it their existence, you know, in this RPG.
Right.
Stuff like that. And I don't know. I mean, even just, I know it kind of sucks to say, but if you take the thrill of the fight as it was like back in Classic and bring it back in where one single quest can be like an adventure, right? Where you're struggling to take down things, right? You're finding ways to get through the battle, and it's not just smash some buttons and it's done.
Yeah.
That by itself. But again, I don't know. I'm all over the place. You get my point. I know we're not going to go that direction, so it doesn't matter. We could talk about it. We've talked about it 4 or 5 times before. I mean, I don't know what you do. Like, you know, they have the ability to script, right? They have the ability to do, you know, AI NPCs, right? They have all these little utilities that they could do to make the world more lively, feel more lively, and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not gonna make money. Fuck it. Who cares?
Well, I'm sure that
when you got the gator at the helm, Jim,
it's not just that.
you
It's
can't
like
expect.
they've
you can't
already
expect
said
anything.
they have like what 2-3 expansions planned out already, or like, at least like major story points that they're going to head to. So
Yeah,
I mean,
it's all based on the same pattern, though. It's the story pattern. It's, you know,
the next expansion after Dragonflight's going to be somewhere not on Azeroth. Eventually, Azeroth's going to hatch.
yeah. Oh, that'll be Overwatch 2 for a while, probably.
Oh
Where
god,
it's like
where it goes free to
not
play
real.
and nobody can get in.
it's not a real game. It's the same thing over again.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know. It would
We'll
be
see.
interesting if they brought in stuff like Fates, though, from Final Fantasy 14, like zone events and stuff like that.
Even shit like that. Yes, like one of the coolest things about ye old Ultima Online was that they had, and I think it was, they called them were they game masters? I think they're called game masters. I don't know. They called them GMs as well, but there was a lot of like slightly controlled events. So there was like at one time there was a bunch of ogres or gargoyles, I don't remember, that like would come and invade town. And in town, that's where everything's going on. You go to the bank in town, everybody was hanging out there. That's where they sold stuff. That's where you got gates to go different places. That's where, if people had vendors set up at their house, they would sit and open gates and advertise to go there. All kinds of stuff. But then they would send in mobs, like with these events, and they'd start killing people off. So like everyone in town would like rally up and start killing, you know, the invasion, and then it would last for, I don't know, 20 minutes or so. Get some loot and all that crap, and it was over. But it's one of those things that made it feel like, oh, well, you're not safe anywhere you go, you know, this stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, that's not hard to do. Even now, like most zones you go to, aren't they scaled up now?
Up to a certain level, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, like if they went down that route even more, well, boom, there you are. Like, it doesn't have to be that far-fetched of an idea when you're kind of right there at it, right? If you scale up everything to the same level, you could always have that adventure when you go out kind of anywhere. And realistically, that's kind of how it really should be. A boar right outside the gates of Ogrimmar, is it really going to be that different from a boar you experience like in a different zone of the same planet, right? Being a little bit cautious of how you reference. I was going to say Hellfire Peninsula, but that was a different world, so potentially that could be much different. But for the sake of knowing a boar is a boar, to a certain extent, there's only so much that the boar is like, it right now, one could be like the size of a raid boss during the timeline of WoW at some point. Whereas if we scale, at least we have some consistency in what reality really is. And then you could go out and make events based on that, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah. There's a lot they can do. And like you said, there's a lot they won't do.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of stuff they won't do. But that's okay. We pay them to give us new shit. And they'll keep packing continents on Azeroth until it flips over so we can fill out the other side too.
Yeah. Turns inside out.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's probably a pretty decent place to go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks everyone for listening. You can check us out at facebook.com/server restart in. Shoot us a tweet at server_restart, and we'll catch you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.